And we welcome you to the post AEW Dynasty edition of This Is Wrestling. It is Lee Versage along with Zach friggin' McGibbon. You've had time to catch AEW Dynasty with all of your Trenton Golden Hawks, Quinny Minor Hockey, man of the people, CJBQ. He does it all. Not very well, but he does it all. Zach McGibbon.
Hi, Lee. It's been busy. It's been really busy the last little bit. I try to be a Swiss Army knife over here in the Bay of Quinte, and as you mentioned, I got to host the Quinny Red Devils awards banquet on Monday, which was that was really cool. I think that's the first time I've actually hosted some sort of banquet thing that I can recall. So certainly one of the second or third time that I can recall, if there were others. So that was fun, and obviously hockey is ongoing. Eastern Conference Finals for the Trenton Golden Hawks, baby. We are doing well. Game 1, overtime victory.
Who's we?
The Trenton Golden Hawks.
You don't play on the team.
That's true. That's true.
Who's we? Oh my God, what a start this is. And I'm telling you, Zach, I ain't happy. And it's been 48 hours and I'm not happy. You don't play on the Trenton Golden Hawks. You might call their games. You might get a ring, Zach. Well, you won't because they'll lose in the finals like they always
wow.
do.
Wow.
Is that factual?
You never know. We got to wait out for the rest of the playoffs.
We again. Oh my God.
When I say we this time, I mean we as in the fans and the people following along.
Yeah. We gotta wait to see if we are gonna get to the finals and then choke it away like the Buffalo Bills. Is that what they call the Trenton Golden Hawks?
They do not call them the Buffalo Bills. No.
They will.
You never know. I will say this: the Collingwood Blues. It won't be like the Dallas Cowboys where they'll have multiple Super Bowls in this era. They are out of the playoffs. I don't know if I mentioned that already. So we're going to get a new champion this year in the OJHL. So it should be interesting there as well.
You know what was interesting today?
What?
Not 15 more centimeters of snow.
Yes.
15, Zach. It actually feels like more. I will send you a picture of outside of my home. It is not what I would call April 8th weather.
No. I saw a video, obviously in the news job. I saw there was a shot of Yves-Francois Blanchette giving a conference, and it looked like he had turned into a snowman. It was a lot of snow down in the capital.
It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
I'm just seeing your photo now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty.
You sure you didn't send me this photo already in February?
Oh, I'm sure I did. In January and December and March and probably November.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the same photo, just again and again and again. You know what I wanted to do today? Later on in the afternoon, shovel the driveway.
You were really missing that, weren't you?
I hadn't done it in a week. That's right. We did it last weekend. Oh, right. At the end of March. Anyway, AEW Dynasty, Zach, and I'm fired up, but I'm going to tell you, not for the right reasons.
No.
Okay? Not for the right reasons. In fact, I sent you a message and you're like, "Well, I'm going to watch the show," and I said, "I need a little bit to cool off." I said, "Well, it could be anything."
It really could be.
It could be. Or it could be everything.
Which is what it usually is.
So I'm interested to hear, as somebody that you watched the show, not live. Did you find out about it beforehand?
In terms of spoilers and whatnot, I had some stuff spoiled to me beforehand. Like I knew what was happening with the main event going in. But I had other stuff not spoiled to me. I was very on and off over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And you were not the only person, by the way, to warn me. Also, Tanner also gave a warning to me about the show. It's like, oh boy, this doesn't sound great. And then I saw the main event. I was like, oh boy, this is not great either. And yeah, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts as well about this show, because I've been waiting. I've been waited with bated breath to hear some takes about this show.
Okay. First of all, worst AEW pay-per-view in the history of the company.
Wow, okay. Already off to a hot start.
Okay? Like, by far. And maybe other people will argue other ones, and there's been things I've been disappointed about, but this pretty much from top to bottom, because I already know the AEW fan base who's listening right now is going to say, well, what about this and what about this? And that's fine. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through it. But I'm telling you, Zach, I just, I don't understand so many things. And here's as we start off with the first match on the show is Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight. And you heard me last show talk about this match and why Kevin Knight was in it.
No surprises, Jones over there and Versage.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't like the surprise. Whenever the Royal Rumble happens, he gets infinitely more mad whenever a new entrant arrives, because like, this is a surprise. What is this person doing out here? Can't have these surprises in my Royal Rumble match.
First of all, there's 8 people, Zach, and not 30. 8 people that are in a tournament to determine the number 1 contender at the biggest show of the year. So this is the Royal Rumble. And I would dare you to go back to the Rumble off the top of your head and find me somebody worse in the Rumble than Kevin Knight in this tournament.
In terms of recognition and star power and whatnot?
Well, in terms of deserving a chance to go for the championship at WrestleMania.
He did just show up, so it's tough to say.
Yeah, he just showed up.
Yeah.
I asked you about people deserving of an opportunity to win the World Heavyweight Championship.
Search up the entrance of the Royal Rumble here and see if there's anyone here that sticks out. I Show Speed. Does I Show Speed have more credibility to be in contention for the World Championship?
Okay, and you know what? I knew that you were going to say that as soon as I asked the question, but I was going to let you come up with it because they always do some sort of celebrity angle to promote the show in another way. There's 30 entrants. We can have a discussion because I'm not even in favor of that happening. So if you want to have a discussion about a couple of celebrities being in it because they know on Monday people are going to be talking about those moments, okay, sure. But I don't like it, first of all. And second of all, there's 30 people instead of 8. And this isn't the same thing. Kevin Knight is not on there, so people will be talking about AEW Dynasty on Monday, correct? Okay. So I'm going to X-nay that one. Keep going.
The other one I see here, Otis.
Otis
came out at 6th in the Royal Rumble.
Sure. He's got more pedigree in the WWE than Kevin Knight does in AEW.
Also had more time on TV than he has, but take a look here at some of the other ones. Joe Hendry, local hero.
Yeah, TNA champion.
TNA champion.
Why wouldn't a TNA World Heavyweight Champion have a shot? The whole point is that they began a pay-per-view with a jobber match that just ended up being a really good jobber match. You know why? Because Will Ospreay's the best wrestler in the world. That's why. And Will Ospreay being the best wrestler in the world, when people say he could wrestle a broomstick, I think he did on Sunday. Oh, that's
That's a
mean to
little
Kevin
tough
Knight.
on Kevin
No,
Knight.
that is. And you know what, Kevin
Jeez.
Knight, Kevin Knight actually showed well. Okay, but you understand what I'm saying, because the best wrestler in the world was in a tournament match to get to the finals of the AEW World Championship against a guy that nobody knows about, that didn't deserve to be in the tournament. And don't logically tell me about, well, it was Jay White's opponent, and like,
Don't bring logic into this argument.
Jay White's opponent. Oh my Lord. Okay, so I actually really like this match after saying all that.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but why did I like this match? Because the best wrestler on the planet is in this match. And he made it great. And he made Kevin Knight look great, because that's what great wrestlers do. So I like the match. It never should have happened. It never should have happened on a Dynamite, on a Collision, let alone a pay-per-view. However, for what it was, every time Will Ospreay's on my television screen, I'm watching. And it was good. And that's really all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you at all, by the way. I just like poking the bear and trying to get you fired up here.
Well,
on
wait until this show keeps going.
Yeah, as this card goes along. In terms of this match, I like this match. I thought this would be an interesting opportunity for Kevin Knight. I wasn't as, I wasn't as, oh, he's unknown, what's he doing here? Like, I got it. I understood why he was there. Could they have, I wish they could have found something else, but I was also going into this thinking, well, this is a big opportunity and it's against Will Ospreay. You know that you can rely on Ospreay to have, at worst, a good match. At worst. And this is what we got here. I thought we had a very good match here. Kevin Knight's got some great athletic feats, some great athletic ability, and they went very fast here. And like what you mentioned, Will Ospreay gave him a lot to work with. He let him kick out of some of his moves. He's one of the most giving top stars I think I've seen in pro wrestling, because he was just willing to give him a whole bunch of stuff to try and get shine in Kevin Knight. Yep. I think the thing with Kevin Knight here was, I think he could definitely go athletically with him, and he had some very impressive looking moves, and you could tell he's quite the athlete, and there's something there in my mind with Kevin Knight. I think there's something that you could definitely work with him on and see if he could develop. The big thing I found with him is there were definitely a couple of times where it felt like he was kind of out of place on spots and out of place in terms of ring awareness. And so I think that's going to be the thing when it comes to Kevin Knight moving forward. If you put him into matches like this with Ospreay and other guys that kind of work that style, that more high pace, fast pace action, athletic style, he's going to have to work on his body positioning a little bit on doing the moves. Because there were a couple of times where you could tell they kind of bumped in and then they were just kind of getting reset for the next sequence. But otherwise, athletically, you could tell there's something there with Kevin Knight, and he's got some charisma to him. The crowd was behind him at the end. And so this is one of those cases where, yes, it was obvious who was going to get the victory here, but this was a case of, well, we're going to try and establish a guy on the roster and get him a little bit more known and a little bit more cachet so that even if he loses, you could go, well, this is still a guy that can work on this roster, and he could build himself up from there. And I think they accomplished that very well in this match. Again, Will Ospreay, super giving in this match, letting the moves that Knight kicked out of from Ospreay. I was astonished. So I all that to say, I thought this was a good way to open the show. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think as the show went along, when it happened, I'm like, this is a good way to open the show. As the show went along, I would have switched that with another match, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Zach, quite frankly, I'm gonna let you do this because I'm gonna be negative later on in this show, so I don't want too much. I had my say on what the Hurt Syndicate and the tag team championships and what they were doing last pay-per-view and what they were doing this pay-per-view. They beat the Learning Tree, Big Bill and Brian Keith, who I thought were horrendous in this match. Horrendous. And this isn't, I had my say on where the tag team division is and where it should go and why were they doing this in the first place. And I wouldn't care if this were a great match. It wasn't, but having MJF come in and be the focal point and the crowd chanting his name in the middle of your tag team title match tells you what their focus is on the tag team titles. I don't know that, like, I watched this match for everything that Big Bill and Brian Keith have gotten the rub off the modern day Hulk Hogan.
That's right.
They did not take advantage because this was their spot. This was their spot. And I quite frankly don't want to see them again on TV. I thought they were horrendous in this match. I couldn't wait for this one to be over. That's how I felt about it.
Wow. Yeah, on the last episode, I defended Big Bill and Brian Keith a little bit. I'm not saying these are, this is the next great tag team in all of pro wrestling, but I thought it was a little harsh with some of the thoughts about Big Bill and Brian Keith. I thought they were fine to unspectacular in this. The big thing that I found with this is actually kind of similar to the Outrunners match, is I didn't like the layout of it. I think they've been booking the stuff with Hurt Syndicate in terms of how they have their match layout wrong. They should just be dominating guys. Because quite frankly, Liam, and we cannot forget about this with the Hurt Syndicate, is that they hurt people. And when it comes to this match, the layout, there was times where they would go to the outside and they would have to huddle up and regroup and whatnot. I don't think it works for that. I think it's too soon to be doing stuff like that. That should be something that they should do later on with this storyline. Potentially doing this with whatever the MJF stuff is going to be in the future. But they've now done it twice for their matches. And again, I think the layout for these is just off for what this group is supposed to be. So I thought this was an average tag match. I didn't think it was inherently bad or awful. It's just when you have the high standards of an AEW pay-per-view like this, average is not going to be good enough on a show on AEW pay-per-views, and that's what makes it stick out more. And I think that's what really hindered it, was that match layout and how they've got it pushed.
Okay. And not every match is going to be the greatest match ever.
Yep.
But this, to me, this was Big Bill and Brian Keith's shot to prove that this group is a group to care about. And I got clunky. I got missed spots. I got especially Brian Keith, maybe that's just what he is. And if you knew that already, I don't know. I hated this. But we move on to Mercedes Moné and Julia Hart in the first round matchup on the women's side in the Owen Hart Cup. What did you think of this one?
I thought this was I don't want to say a carry job by Mercedes Moné, but I wasn't particularly impressed by Julia Hart in this match. I thought a lot. I know when you watch the match, the crowd was behind Julia. They chanted for Julia. And I thought what I saw was pretty good, but I was more impressed with Mercedes here than I was with Julia. And I've been somebody that I feel like her development has sort of stalled here now that she's gone singles and started going on her own as an in-ring performer in Julia Hart. And this really didn't do that much for me from both performers. I thought Moné did quite a bit of the heavy lifting here to try and A, get the match over, B, get the crowd invested to Julia Hart. And on top of the fact that you kind of knew what the result was going to be, all that kind of together, kind of like, it's It was pretty good. It was definitely better than the tag team match, but that's not exactly a high praise. But I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping for Julia Hart to step up a little bit more.
I'd agree with that. And the other thing with Mercedes Moné is she's so head and above most of the other women in the company, but every match she seems to botch just a couple of things.
Yes.
And that's fine because she's really, really good. But she does seem to mess up a couple of times where it's like the real greats, they don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, because this wasn't, especially the botch where she went on the rope and she slipped on the rope, and I get it, but that wasn't an opponent-driven botch. She seems to do things on her own, and I don't know if they're just unlucky. And I say this knowing that she is so far above most of the other women in the company. Because I'd agree with your assessment on, I do think this is a tale in some of the wrestlers that are young wrestlers that don't have the experience. They get in and they get in big spots, and it's time for them, they think, to, like, it looks like they're thinking, I have to do this right. I have to do this right. Okay, what's next? I got to do this. And it comes across that way. And it came across that way to me with Julia Hart in this match. She did some cool things. And the crowd was behind her. And there was a point near the end where I'm like, are they going to go for the ending right now while they're chanting for Julia Hart? If they are, they need to wait like a minute. They need to figure it out and go on the fly for another minute or so, because the crowd's really invested in Julia right now. But mechanical is the wrong word because she's not that well oiled.
Mm-hmm.
But she just looked like she was thinking a lot and not letting it flow.
Yeah.
And maybe that comes with experience. I know she's young. She's had a lot of time on television, though. So, I hope that she continues to get better. There was some stuff I didn't mind in this match. And I like the fact that she does seem to be over with the crowd. There just needs to be a little bit more fluidity, I think, to Julia Hart and some of the other younger wrestlers as well. But Mercedes Moné does advance into the semifinals in the tournament. We get to the AEW Trios Championships, the Death Riders against Rated FTR. And once again, I'll let you kind of take on this. Death Riders defeat Rated FTR. And then I think we all were kind of assuming that Dax or FTR would turn on Adam Copeland, and they did. And a savage attack at the end of it leaves Adam Copeland laying, and FTR as true heels with a couple of pile drivers, a Meltzer driver onto a chair, concertos. What did you think of the match and the turn?
Match itself, I thought the work was pretty solid, but nothing that I'm not going to be remembering this match a couple months down the line. I thought the work here was pretty good. Yuta's getting a lot of heat and whatnot, and but the angle I thought afterwards was tremendous. I really like this angle, and as you mentioned, the ferociousness of the angle, the multiple concertos and the pile driver, obviously playing off of the neck injury history of Adam Copeland, and I thought this really came across well. I also got a kick out of when FTR was leaving the ring, Cash Wheeler taking the neck brace and putting it on himself, and then like putting himself on the gurney. Yeah. Like that got a kick out of me. And then Dax just flipping the gurney as well, just for the heck of it, was great. Like I loved it. And I think this is going to be something FTR has needed for a while.
Yep.
Is a change in character. They've been baby faces for so long that I think this will not only work out great, but this might be better than their babyface run in terms of how honed in on their work they'll be, and where they could go. And it feels much more refreshing. Plus, there'll be a program once Cope gets back. I hope to God he doesn't show up on Dynamite tomorrow as we're recording this and talks about, oh, I took 2 concertos of Pile Driver and yet here I am, or anything like that. I don't want that. I want him to be gone for a while, just to really sell the injuries. Do you think he's going to be back in time for All in Texas?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what I'm feeling too. And the reason why I asked that is when you do an angle like that, like I feel like it should extend past All in Texas. But I definitely feel like he'll probably come back at Double or Nothing, or maybe just the Dynamite after Double or Nothing, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we're going to be setting up pretty soon here the Cope and Christian Cage versus FTR match down the line is how I took away from this. So
no question.
Yes.
I think at All In, your biggest show of the year, to have FTR going up against 2 legends in Edge and Christian, Cope and Christian, I think it just makes all the sense in the world. So the thing I like the best about all of this, you could see this coming a mile away, and they still pulled it off where at the end they were believable. Ferociousness is a good word that you used. They had that intensity. They had that killer instinct where it didn't need much, but to be able to do that where you're leaving, because people like FTR. So you got to leave there with people hating you. And I thought they did a pretty good job. This is a match that I didn't think was a great match. Unfortunately, I just don't think Adam Copeland is near what he was. And this is another example, even in a 6-man tag, and watching the show with our good friend Ben Sublier, who mentioned that it's a really good role for him to come in as like the hot tag guy in a 6-man. I'm like, yes,
totally agree.
Even in a tag team, he if he's going to tag with Christian or tag with somebody else, the other person needs to be the worker, and he needs to be the hot tag guy. I thought that was a really good point. But the one thing I liked about this match is I do think from the beginning of the match to the end of the match, this was a schooling in how to tell a story with body language. Dax Harwood, I thought, was incredible in telling the story throughout the match through body language, through stealing tags, through glances and looks. And you could tell all match long that he was unhappy with what was going on. Even if you didn't see any of the angles beforehand, I thought you just have to watch this match and you can tell that guy's not happy. And that's a real art to be able to do that convincingly. So I think it was the thing I liked the best about this match was Dax and his storytelling through body language. I really like that. The angle was good, and it hopefully is going to lead to something that I want to watch. The match itself stunk.
Right.
So it was just getting that angle over the entire time. But I give them a lot of credit. I thought this was a really, really good performance by FTR. It just in selling the story. So, and you and I are in pretty good agreement here that that's what we're going to get with Copeland and Christian against FTR moving forward.
Yep.
We get into timeless Tony Storm and Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's World Championship. I thought there were some good parts of this match. Tony Storm is really good. I thought it was hilarious coming out with the Rocky and Luther with Mickey, and just in the video beforehand and the presentation and getting to the ring and in Philadelphia. I think she's got a knack for this kind of stuff. Like, she just sinks herself right in and it works. And I think it works because that's a little tricky in Philadelphia to do that properly, to have everyone behind you, because that's not an easy crowd to just get behind you. And they did. I think for me, and Tony Storm defeats Megan Bayne. And about 5 seconds before it, I called exactly how it was going to end. And then it ended that way. And everyone looked at me like, how did you know? You're the greatest wrestling mind ever. No, they didn't. I think we
I was
all
just going to
predicted.
say.
Yeah. No. Well, that group would never say it, even if it was true. However, I did predict it right before. I would like to see Megan Bayne be a little bit less methodical. I understand the glamazon or whatever they're calling her, and it's the same things that we've seen with Beth Phoenix and China and Camille, where everything is just really slow and methodical. I'd like to see her pick it up a little bit. But I also go back to 2.5 months ago, we were watching Megan Bayne at C4, and now she's in a AEW Women's World title match on a pay-per-view. Good for her. That's a quick ascent. But every time I watch Tony Storm, I'm entertained. I thought this was just average, and another kind of proving ground chance for a young talent like Megan Bayne to get in there with someone like Tony Storm and try and keep up. Did you think that she kept up?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought there were moments where she was keeping up. You're nicer than on the Tony Storm stuff than I will be, so I will just kind of leave it at that. I will say she is over, but I will not say I was particularly enthused with what the presentation or the character, but I've been saying that for months, so I'm just gonna be.
Yeah, you just don't like her.
I don't like her character. I think she's a good wrestler, though. I will say this. I just think the character stinks and the presentation stinks, and I don't understand why she's over. And I know her nickname is Timeless, but we're going to go from the 20s to the 50s. Now we're in the 70s now with Rocky, and I just want good wrestling. That's all I ask. I am not particularly entertained, and now she's making sex jokes too. I mean, very funny, haha. So I guess, but people like it, and it's over. So what do I know? From a match perspective, I understood how they were building this. You wanted to have Megan Bayne. It was a lot of Megan Bayne being dominant throughout the match, and Tony Storm coming in with an inch of her life at the end, having to do the capture on the pin to get the victory, to be able to get away from Megan Bayne with the W, but you still come away thinking, man, Megan Bayne, like, she could do some damage. She's a monster. And like what you said, in that same vein of a Beth Phoenix or a Camille or somebody like that. So in terms of that aspect of it, I thought it worked in terms of maintaining Megan Bayne. Obviously, this is somebody that they're going to keep on pushing and see through in terms of her being a potential name in the women's division. So we'll see where that goes from there. I agree with you, though. I think a little less methodical. I think a little bit more energy and pacing could really go a long way with Bayne in terms of her matches. But otherwise, I thought this was pretty good. There were a couple of moments here that I was interested in the match. And I thought Tony Storm did some great work in the ring, but I'll leave my thoughts on the character for another day.
Excellent. So because it's I don't get a lot of positive, Zach, so we're going to keep with that. So, I think and it's not a fair example, but do you know who is somebody for a long time that I see as like a in the men's division, not necessarily in AEW, but like a methodical sort of beast-like guy that does have energy and is kind of methodical, but has that pace, that sort of killer instinct, that ferociousness that you talk about. It's Brock.
Yeah, I was envisioning Brock Lesnar in my head with the way you were describing.
Yeah. And look, I'm not asking Megan Bain to be Brock Lesnar or Camille or anything else, but pick it up a little bit. Like, get in there. Like, don't every single thing is like one thing. Look around, look around. This dominant, and the announcers were over the top in this one to me. As you were listening to the announcers talk, there was no way that Toni Storm had a chance to win this match. She's the champion. And they were talking about her like she had no shot to win this. You're like, I get that Megan Bain's maybe getting a little bit more offense than Toni Storm, but you think that Toni Storm, the AEW Women's World Champion, has no chance to win this match? That's like Megan Bain's been there for a cup of coffee and has beat who?
Penelope Ford, who's now with her as a manager.
Right. So, and the announcers made it seem like just, no chance that Toni Storm has to win this match. And I'm like, that's just not true.
Yeah, I understand trying to put somebody over and make them legitimate, but there is a line.
Yeah. All right. Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe in first round matchup for the Owen Hart Cup. What'd you think?
I really like this.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this match. I've been singing the praises of Kyle Fletcher over the last little bit. I will continue to hear. I think he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. I think he continues to just impress in terms of his overall body of work. And I think he is going to continue to be on a track to be a guy if he's not already a guy. I think in the future, he'll be, when we talk about guys that deserve to be in the world title mix, you talk about Heyman, you talk about Will Ospreay, you talk about Swerve. I think Fletcher, if he's not already there, should be there pretty soon. In terms of where he's at in terms of his development. So I thought he was tremendous here. I thought he plays his role so well. And I'm a big Mark Briscoe guy. I've really enjoyed his work. I think he's a great character, good promos. He's been a long-time reliable guy in Ring of Honor and now here in AEW. And I thought these two had a really good match. I was wondering... I knew these two were good, but I was wondering why a match like this would be on the card. And I realized why, because, these two can go out there and put on a really, really good match. So I don't know if I'm the high man on this. I've barely listened to a bunch of stuff about this show. But I'm just coming away from what I took away from this quarterfinal match, and I thought it was really, really good. One of my favorite matches on the show, quite frankly.
So here's my problem, Zach. This was the best match on the show.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Better than the match that we're going to talk about coming up.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm interested in that take then, yeah.
Yeah. No, and that match was decent too. This is not cutting down something else. My massive problem with this is, how long before the show did you know that this match was on the pay-per-view?
When it came on my radar, I think it was like Friday, not Saturday.
Okay. But you understand what I'm saying here.
Yep.
Kyle Fletcher, world title guy. Absolutely. Mark Briscoe, again, can make a lot of people look good. He could wrestle the broomstick and make them look good. He could put the broomstick over. Like, It's the perfect guy for Kyle Fletcher to face because Briscoe's willing to do so many things to put somebody over, get in some really cool offense. Biggest thing I liked about this match, the speed of Kyle Fletcher.
Yes.
Like, he started off and it was 5 seconds into the match and he ran at Briscoe in the corner. I'm like, oh my God, this is what we need. And again, this came off of what I just said. Slow, methodical, I get it. It's the character. I understand. But 3 minutes later, I'm watching Kyle Fletcher, who's 6'5", by the way. I'm watching him with this tenacious speed. So this was the best match on the show. It was incredible. I would tell somebody to go back and watch this match. But my huge problem with all of this, we can sit here and debate, and people might be mad at me, but we can sit here and debate what the best 3 matches on the show were. And I can tell you what they were. They were the 3-way dance for the International Championship. It was this one, and it was Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight. Okay? Those are the 3. Because the other ones, I'm going to spoiler alert, they sucked ass. But you tell me, Zach, what all of those matches, and we'll get to the 3-way dance for the International Championship in a second, but you just told me that Kyle Fletcher should be in the world title picture, right?
If not pretty soon, but yes.
Yeah. But he's going to be at some point.
Definitely.
Who is the number 1 contender and probably is going to win the belt at All In? Who's that?
Probably Will Ospreay.
So at a show 3 months before your biggest show of the year, kind of like the Royal Rumble going into All In, Will Ospreay wrestles Kevin Knight, and Kyle Fletcher wrestles Mark Briscoe in a first-round tournament match that, quite frankly, I didn't even know was on the card. Was it announced Friday, Saturday? Fine. But I'm pretty sure that if Kyle Fletcher's one of your top guys, that on Wednesday on Dynamite, which is the show that everybody really watches as your go-home show into the pay-per-view, I didn't even know that Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe were wrestling. And I don't want to walk away from a show going, in my mind, this was the best match on the card. And I didn't know it was happening. And then Will Ospreay is wrestling someone I don't know. You understand what I'm saying here, Zach?
Yep. Oh, totally. I get it.
Okay. It actually, as great as this match was, it made me mad at the end that I had no storyline. So now the next, like the 2 matches, Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, 2 of your guys that fought in a cage, which was incredible. And every time they've got together, it's been incredible. And now they're fighting nobody in contention. Like, look, I have all the respect in the world for Mark Briscoe, but Mark Briscoe is not winning the Owen to go to All In as the number 1 contender for the AEW World Championship. So you have both of those guys, Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay, in matches that are like, we already know exactly what's going to happen against people that are not contenders. And I don't understand this, Zach. I don't get it. There's so many talented people. How many people were not on this show? We went over it on the last show, but you're watching the show and going, no MJF. He was in the crowd. No Hangman. Oh, well, he's going to come out in the main event. Oh, okay. No Darby. No Orange Cassidy. No Christian. Like, how many guys and girls were not on the show? I want storylines, Zach, and it's kind of a precursor to what I think about the other really good match on the show. The 3 best matches on this show, and it's not even close, had 0 storyline going into the matches. And if you want to tell me that Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey, who both pinned somebody at the same time in one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, earning a shot in a 3-way against Kenny Omega, that's not a storyline. The 3 best matches on the show had 0 storyline. And I get it. There's Zach McGibbon in my head. Sometimes you just line guys up and wrestle. And you don't have to overthink it.
Yep.
Well, I'm telling you, AEW is not overthinking it because they're not thinking at all. This is a fantastic match. And Kyle Fletcher is the real deal. And putting him in, like, I would, this is like if you had house shows and you had like other, collisions and different things, I would put Kyle Fletcher wrestling Mark Briscoe all the time. All the time. They both come out looking amazing after this. I loved this match. I just hated the fact that I didn't know it was going to happen and there was 0 storyline about it. That's all. That's the only thing I didn't like about it. But Zach, I have more to say on Chris Jericho and Bandito.
Oh, yes. Ring of Honor World Championship. I know you were on the edge of your seat. You were wondering who is going to be the ROH World Champion. Will Bandito have to lose his mask? I know you were right on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Nothing like a Ring of Honor World title match right smack dab in the middle of a pay-per-view.
That's right.
Showing how important that title is. But when they put their own world title on in the middle of Dynamite and you tell me it's because of ratings, okay.
I mean, it's different. I mean, you got to judge it differently between TV and pay-per-view.
Yes. Putting a Ring of Honor World Championship on in the middle of an AEW pay-per-view is like, I still don't get that philosophy either. I would like you to speak about this match because I don't have a lot of good things to say about it. So I would like you to go ahead.
So I actually thought the work was not that bad here. I thought Jericho had his working boots on. I was actually I thought Bandito wasn't at his best here in this match. And then you had the run-in with Brian Keith, and then you had Jericho win.
So I'm gonna stop you.
Okay.
It was you're right. You pointed out something that was very favorable. The second time we got to see Brian Keith on this show.
Yes.
Limp down to the ring. You know what I needed after watching him? I needed to see him again. So it's great. We got to see him again.
Tough on the old Brian Keith. Not his night, and just getting, Yeah. Just not his night. The match itself, I thought the work itself was fine. I didn't think it was anything to write home about or anything like that. Thought Jericho had his working boots on, and then you had Keith run down, and Jericho pinned Bandito, and for a moment, because I was not privy to this, for a moment I thought, oh my God, we're actually going to have Bandito unmask here. And on that aspect...
Hold on, Zach. Hold on.
Yeah.
That's what you had to say. Could this really be happening?
Wow. Gonna unmask. What does Bandito look like? I'm sure that was the big question at Ben's place. Mm-hmm. What does he look like?
Yeah. Oh. It was actually the fact that we all got one wrong. We didn't even do our picks because everyone had the same picks.
Yes.
Like every match, every pick was the same. So it's like we didn't even do them.
No.
And then we're like, oh, we're wrong. Until one of the worst finishes, angles of something that I could see what they were trying to do. So, as you said, Chris Jericho, baseball bat, pins Bandito, 1, 2, 3. retains the Ring of Honor World Championship. Bandito's not going to unmask. His mom, his sister, they're very upset. Until Zach, mom and sister are able to get the attention of Aubrey Edwards, the referee, who, by the way, Zach, was not refereeing this match.
Correct.
Okay, so let's start there. Aubrey Edwards, not the official referee in this match, but they're upset. They get her attention. They tell her that there's a baseball bat over in the corner. Well, Aubrey Edwards hasn't seen it. And the referee, was it Paul
Turner,
Paul Turner, who was the referee in the match. Aubrey Edwards, she didn't see the baseball bat. Paul Turner didn't see the baseball bat. But you know who saw the baseball bat, Zach? Bandito's mom and sister. And they grabbed the attention of Aubrey Edwards, who's not the referee, by the way. Did I mention that?
Correct.
And then they bring Aubrey Edwards, says, well, show me. Because if anyone that I'm going to believe, it's going to be the mom and the sister of the guy who just lost. And they take her over, and Aubrey Edwards finds this baseball bat, Zach. And when Aubrey Edwards finds the baseball bat that she didn't see, she shows it to Paul Turner, who also didn't see it. So now we have two referees that didn't see anything. But we have the word of the guy who lost, his mom and sister. They're crying. They're upset. So they just, their word for it. And decided without any video replay, without anything other than the word of the mom and the sister of the guy who lost, and said, you know what? You can't end it that way. Do you know what these masks mean? In the heritage of our country? Okay, well, we're going to restart the match then, based on what you two are telling us. Who then, by the way, if somebody got knocked out with a baseball bat and couldn't get up when Jericho didn't hook a leg or anything, was knocked out cold, Bandito sure made it up quick. And Bandito is able, after botching a move earlier, I didn't think he pulled off his signature suplex.
Yeah, the 21 plex, I think is what it's called.
21 plex. He didn't pull it off great, but he pulled it off better than the first time where he completely missed it.
Yeah, he just kind of stopped midway through. Like, uh-oh.
And Jericho's almost had to keep his shoulders on the mat because at any point just could have rolled them over. And all of a sudden, we got a new Ring of Honor world champion. Moms thrilled, sisters over the moon. Bandito's yelling into the Spanish microphones.
Yeah,
it is just jubilation and just an incredible moment, Zach.
Don't forget Gravity as well. He has his mask back, and
yeah, his brother, Gravity.
That's right.
Came out. In one of the, I'm just going to ask the question, Zach.
Okay.
This is one of those, you go back to the meetings.
Yep.
Sitting around the table. Chris Jericho's got, 100 years experience. Bandito's got a lot of experience. How are we going to do this, guys? Tony, you got any ideas? Yeah, I got a great idea. We're going to have not one, but two AEW officials not see anything. And then we're just going to trust mom and sister are telling us the truth. And then We'll restart the match. Bandito will get the great ending, and he'll be the Ring of Honor World Champion. He won't have to unmask. Mom's crying. Sister's going to cry. We'll bring in the brother. What a family moment. And everyone will be in tears. This is one of the worst angles I've ever seen.
Not a fan of the finish, eh?
Well, were you a fan of the finish, Sean?
No, I wasn't a fan of the finish either. Yeah, I think I understood what they were going for, but you know what I've said in the past? It's road agents trying to validate why their jobs exist.
Yep.
This is one of those scenarios. Like, oh, guys, I got a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I know I'm one of the 17,000 people that are in that booking meeting, but road agent number 64, have this great idea that I think could really make this pay-per-view over the top. Yeah. And really sell this. You know, no iPad to review the footage, as you mentioned. They didn't whip out the iPad or anything like that. They just took the word of the family, right? And
not one, but two AEW officials.
That's right. This is kind of like, I bet you they sat around, was like, you know, it's funny, we even brought up this kind of finish on the preview show, but it's like, how about we do a Dusty finish, but we make it worse? and that's what we'll do. And let's completely overthink this, because we're trying to get a moment. And yeah, you know what? I didn't like this finish.
No.
I understood what they were trying to go for, but it was so overthought, and it just so universe breaking. It's like, okay, well, if they could do that, like, I'm making sure if I'm a wrestler, I got people in the front row reviewing everything so that they could yell over to the official after the end of my match and say, hey, you know, he went for 6 seconds on the hammer lock, not 5. You gotta DQ him or something like that, right?
Yeah, no, and then have the referee come over and legitimately ask you, okay, well then show me.
Yeah, yeah, show
me. He used like a matchstick and knocked him over. He did?
What?
Show me.
You mean to tell me a wrestling heel tried to get one up over me? Show me the evidence of this.
Show me.
I mean, and why would she believe it's Jericho's bat? Like, Sting uses a bat. Maybe Steve Gordon's walking around.
Why was she even out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, why was she even out there in the first place? Like, was she trying to break up Gravity and Brian Keith? Is that why she was out there? I'm trying to remember why she was out there.
Oh my! I'm trying to remember a lot about this match that I'd really like to forget.
And the funny thing is, it's like, I thought the match itself was fine, but they just totally overthought.
Oh my god!
The finish, and I'm like, guys,
so bad, so bad.
But I'm glad that Road Agent 68 is getting his money's worth with his idea of making it to TV. So good job on him and being on the booking meetings.
One of my favorite parts of the night was after this match. Our good friend Ben Soublier again turns around and says, "Well, guys, this card's flying by." I'm like, flying by?
Well, I did he really say that? I was feeling it. I had the ability to fast forward.
No, like, he said that, and I'm like, in my mind, I didn't want to be rude. We're at his house, okay? Didn't want to be rude. Like, dude, you put your daughter to bed, and you were gone for like an hour, which I get it. That's fine. You're putting your daughter to bed. But you missed like an hour that felt like 3. And then you come back, and then I reminded him. He's like, well, there's only 2 matches left. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. It's 10:40 at this point.
Yeah.
2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm like, we got 3 matches left. You're forgetting about Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia.
Not only that, that match had no time limit, so get excited. Get the pajama pants out, get the sleeping bag. We are getting ready for a match here.
That was my point. I'm like, there's no time limit. This could go on forever. I'm glad this
they might still be wrestling right now.
I'm glad this card's flying by for you, but this one could just last forever. Look, I'm a huge Adam Cole fan. Black and Gold, Undisputed Era. Adam Cole is my guy. I have t-shirts. I was doing the Undisputed Era symbol to people who are like, that's rude. Don't do that. I'm like, no, it's not what you think. It's the Undisputed Era. And I loved the Undisputed Era. Uh, I just don't see anything in Adam Cole anymore. And Daniel Garcia, I don't know if he was trying to be the heel in this match because Cole was kind of the face. He's doing these things. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing right now. And we got ourselves a new TNT champion. Adam Cole defeats Daniel Garcia. What'd you think?
I'm stunned. On the sheet it says it was 15 minutes 35 seconds.
Felt much longer.
Yeah, felt long. I was feeling this match had no time limit as I was watching this.
Yeah.
Oof. I'm disappointed because I like both of these guys.
Yep.
But boy, I'm like, man, can we do some engaging work here, please? Something. I didn't even watch live. I had the ability of fast forwarding. But I stuck with this, and like everybody that watched it live, they stuck with this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And man, just disappointing.
Missing so many gears.
Yeah, it's like I think the big thing, Adam Cole, like the problem is he still is black and gold Adam Cole in a lot of ways. He hasn't evolved. It's the same guy.
Well, see, okay, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with what you're saying, but Adam Cole, black and gold, had this aura, mystique about him. It felt cool. Nothing about him and his character feels cool anymore.
No.
I'm missing all of the aura, all of the mystique. And so when you say that, like I understand where you're going with it, and he hasn't done anything different, but he's lost the magic.
Yep.
And I don't even know really what to say about Daniel Garcia. Like, I do like him. I thought maybe he could take off with this title, and in fact, it's gone the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, super disappointing. I was going into this, I'm like, man, I think these two guys are capable enough, and I'd like to think that both these guys have enough of a chip on their shoulder that they're in this prime spot to really do something with this. But I was left feeling like, man, this is lackluster and really missing a lot. Yeah, I was disappointed. Adam Cole obviously getting the victory. I will see where that goes from there. I think he's just about to do his 8th Panama Sunrise as we're talking, because the match is still going. But yeah,
Canadian Destroyer.
Sorry, the Canadian Destroyer, Panama Sunrise, the Boom, whatever you want to call it. I think he's still doing it, and I think Garcia's still laying there. But yeah, not very disappointed with this. This was definitely my most disappointing match because I thought with the chance that they had to really prove some people wrong that this could be an opportunity, but pretty disappointed.
Kenny Omega, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Ricochet, 3-way for the International Championship. This match was a very good match. I'm going to let you talk about it. I'll only tell you that as much as I enjoyed this match, it goes back to the same things that I've been saying about the company for a very long time. It's kind of ignore, like, Speedball Mike Bailey is a guy that we know, but not a lot of people across the country know. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Ricochet is a guy that a lot of people do know because of his time in WWE, that he's just starting to evolve a character. And then they're going in with one of the greatest that's ever done it in Kenny Omega. I think this match should have opened the show. And I would have saved Will Ospreay for this moment to pick the crowd back up, because I thought this match, as good as it was, had people feeling at the end of the night like this is already a long night, and it went a long time. But there's some really good work in this. my biggest problem with it, Zach, and why to me it wasn't the best match of the night, because when I go back to Briscoe and Fletcher, they had a little bit more speed in the match, and then that match was to advance in a tournament for the world title. I don't know how Mike Bailey ever got a international championship match, and this match just didn't have a storyline for me, and that's the part it was missing, because I go back to every match that I liked on this card was a great match because of the wrestlers involved, not the story told. Any story that this company has tried to get over with me has failed. And the reason I like matches with this company is because it's like, if you put Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher out, they're just great athletes and they're going to go have a great match. And I'll let you talk about Kenny Omega, Speedball Bailey, and Ricochet, who are great athletes and went out and had a great match. Kenny Omega retains.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm a little higher on this match than you are. I thought this was a tremendous match. This was my favorite match of the night, and I understand the critiques about it being long, especially with the placement of this and it going 31 minutes. But I didn't feel the 31 minutes as I was watching this. I thought this was so well built when I was watching this, and I thought Speedball had such a great coming out party in this match. His kicks look so good in this match. Yep. So good. And I popped for the spot where Ricochet was doing commentary and looking in the camera, then he got kicked right in the face. Yep. As I was watching that, I'm like, oh, I bet you Lee absolutely loved that, because somebody got him to stop talking into a camera. And so I imagine you got out of your chair like, yes, thank you, Speedball. Yeah. Don't give him that microphone.
They almost carried that forward. There was a little angle and collision where Penelope Ford came out and like cold cocked Tony Storm, and she was right in front of the camera.
Yep.
And it looked incredible. And I feel like they've gone back to that a couple of times. This spot kind of reminded me of it, where it comes out of nowhere. But you're not wrong. Ricochet talking on the microphone again. I'm like, this guy's got go home heat for me when he talks on a microphone. So anybody that shuts him up is good in my books.
Yeah. And the way that it was delivered, it was like times 10 for you. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not as down on Rick. I think he's really turned it around character-wise. Ricochet to the point where I think it works, where he's kind of this annoying little heel that thinks he's better than a lot of people, but it's fun to see him get his ass kicked, and especially in matches like this. Kenny Omega's Kenny Omega, one of the best wrestlers in the world. Not much else I could really say when it comes to him. He's
creative finish.
Very creative. I was just gonna say that finish was fantastic. I really like that finish. So I really like this match. I thought this was my favorite match, and I'm surprised to be even saying it, because I don't like three-way matches. But I thought this was so well paced, and I thought each guy worked their ass off, and this was one of those deals where, like, even though Mike Bailey lost, like, he came out of this like, man, this is a guy to keep an eye on the AEW roster, and people will look forward to his matches. So I thought this was really, really well done. I can hear your argument of having this open because of the length that it went and switching around with the Ospreay and Kevin Knight match. I could definitely hear that argument, but for what we got here, I still really, really enjoyed this match. I really liked it.
Well, the reason I would have just switched them is because, as you said, the length of it, people are still going to pop, I think, even more at the beginning of a show. And it really kind of built well as it went along. I think if you're watching it live, you're now at about 11:30, 11:40 before this one ends. And that's a long time when the show started at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
And it's a long time regardless. It's a real long time after what is not, to me, a great show leading up to that point. Couple of little moments, but nothing that could keep you hanging around for 3 hours and 40 minutes. So I just thought the placement, I would have put it at the beginning, and then I would have put Ospreay on just to re-energize the crowd before the main event. But I mean, there's not much bad you can say about this match. I just didn't like the fact that there wasn't a storyline, because I guess I always think at the end of it, imagine what you guys could do if there was something productive put into building the match properly, as opposed to just three guys going out because they're great, or two guys going out because they're great. That's what I got on this card. This match was a really, really good match. I just liked the other one better because it had a little bit more pace to it and it didn't go as long. And I thought it was just a perfect match for Kyle Fletcher. So I just liked it a little bit more. But this one had a lot of great things. You did creative finish. They're kind of an inverted
one-winged angel.
One-winged angel off the top, and Bailey trying to get there, but he's caught up in the rope. It was very close to him overusing the roundhouse kick, because he did it at least 4 or 5 times in this match. So you want to harp on Adam Cole with the Panama Sunrise, but Mike Bailey did the same roundhouse kick a lot in this match. But he's a new guy. He's getting over. And I thought he looked incredible. Ricochet is a perfect guy to get other people over too.
Yep.
As long as they're not going to push him too far. I do understand. This is a really good match. I would tell people to go back and watch this match, even with the length that it was. I thought it was a little long, but I only think I thought that because at that point it was about 11:30, 11:40 by the time it ended.
Yep, fair enough.
That's all. All right, main event time. Swerve Strickland, Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title. These two have been in the main event. I think you pointed this out. Ben pointed it out about one of the two have been in the main event of the pay-per-view over the last 12 months, over the last year of AEW. They meet. A lot of us had Swerve Strickland in this match, and he did not win the championship. As Jon Moxley retained, because as the lights went off, I'll give them credit. I thought just this was a WCW show where the show was going to be over. They've gone too long on their pay-per-view time. Is the show just over? Nope. It's the Young Bucks who come back, V-Trigger, and Jon Moxley retains. Zach, what'd you think?
Oh, I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted because I think I would have liked this match elsewhere on the card, the way that it was laid out. But, like, we've been talking about it, and that's kind of the central theme. God, this show is long. When I pulled up the file for this to watch the show, and I saw on my file it said 4.5 hours for the main show, I'm like, oh, God. All right, here we go. We'll lock ourselves in here. And I was watching the Moxley and Swerve stuff. And there was stuff with the work that I liked, but there was also part of me, it's like, man, we're doing this at like this point of the show, late, like, did we not learn from the Cope stuff in the previous show in terms of this style of match? And like, did we not learn? And but other aspects, like, well, the work is not that bad, but also it's like, this should be like a little bit more heated. Like, feel like there should be a little bit more energy in this. And then obviously the Bucks came out later. I was surprised the Bucks showed up. I wasn't expecting that. I was waiting for Hangman to come out. And so when we got the Bucks, I was a bit surprised, but now it kind of seems like we know where it's going here. When it comes to what's going to happen to Swerve and Hangman, quite frankly, after this show. But I didn't really like this match, and I think I would have liked the angle a little bit more if and would have been more tolerable of the Swerve stuff if Mox's matches, just in general, his main event matches have been better. But this was a case where it wasn't. And again, when you're watching this at I can only imagine with you guys watching it live. I had the benefit of fast forwarding, but even then I was watching like, man, doing this kind of match at this time of the night at this part of the card, it's tough sell. And I think that's why the reaction you're seeing right now from a lot of folks about the finish with the Bucks and Swerve being out of it. And you have put the people through a long show, and a lot of people really like Swerve Strickland, and they wanted to see him win the title. You put him through a long show just to kind of have him lose to a guy in a storyline that has not been over with a lot of people in terms of critical acclaim or anything like that. I wasn't a fan of this main event. I'm not going to say I'm upset at the result, because I kind of want to see a little bit more of it personally, of where it will go when it comes to Swerve. But I just didn't really like the placement and the way that this match was laid out for the main event.
Well, if you can imagine how we felt at 12:22 a.m. when it ended, I think he hit it pretty well. Zach, so this is AEW Dynasty. We had Revolution before that, and then we had World's End, and then we had Full Gear, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what the common theme is in all of those matches?
Death Riders in the main event?
It's not only in the main event, it's that run in, interference. Full Gear was a full schmoz. It's almost like everyone in the company came down.
Yeah, all of a sudden you and I were going to run down and interfere in the match.
Like everyone in the company. And then they had the 4-way at World's End with Jay White and Orange Cassidy and Moxley and Hangman, and it just didn't seem like it was supposed to be like that big of a match. And we had, of course, the Death Riders and Yuta running in, and then all of a sudden FTR are there, and Adam Copeland's out, and then it's Adam Copeland talking about what's going to happen afterwards. And then, at Revolution, we have all the shenanigans going on. And now this one too. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And it takes away from anything that they're trying to do. Like, as you said, every Moxley main event has come after a great match, and he's put this dud back into the crowd because of the style of match that it ends up being. And him retaining time after time after time with all of this outside interference and things that are happening, like it's just the same thing over and over again. And there was a tweet that I kept, and I wanted to read it because it really encapsulated how I felt, not only about this match, but about what's gone on in the AEW main event and the world title picture. We've talked ad nauseum about the fact that the belt hasn't been on TV in 6 months.
Yep.
It's just idiotic at this point. But the tweet reads like this: the layout and finish of AEW Dynasty is the exact kind of finish from the market leader that literally sparked the creation of AEW in 2019. So what that means in layman's terms is all the WWE would do, these stupid run-in finishes time after time after time, and people got so sick of them and seeing all of these stupid shenanigans happening at the end of main events that it's like, I need something else. I need something else to do. And that's how I feel about AEW right now. Every single pay-per-view, there's a big schmozzle at the end of it with a stupid retaining by Jon Moxley. Like, Jon Moxley's a badass. He should be able to take care of his own stuff. But we got to get Cope over. We got to get Hangman over. We got to get the Young Bucks back. We got whatever you need to do. Let's just do it in the main event. That's how I feel. And I don't understand from all I want to see out of this company is the difference from what the WWE was doing. And before, when they were having these great matches, and we were going to Forbidden Door and watching Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, we're like, yes, this is it. This is what we want. And now they're doing everything the WWE used to do. Everything. And I don't understand it. Whether I agree or not, I think to me, Swerve, it was time for him to win and time for him to take the title on. And they clearly don't have plans for this, because the second this happened, I'm like, well, Will Ospreay's winning it all in.
That I'm not even sure at this point, if I got to be honest.
I'm 1,000,000% sure.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because, I was going into this, I switched my pick over to Swerve because I thought that the way that they did the last angle and the way that the crowd was kind of getting behind him, I was thinking maybe they are going to go to Swerve here and put him in the main event. But I had been steadfast in my thought that we saw it with the Tony Storm and the Mariah May stuff, where even at the lowest points of the story, they kept going with it. And they saw that thing right to the end. And we know what's going on with Darby. Yes, I know he's climbing a mountain. He's climbing Mount Everest, and God knows when he comes back. But the whole thing started with the Death Riders with Darby Allin and, losing that title shot or whatnot. And if they were committed to the Mariah May stuff there, and they saw what happened at the end, I do wonder if they're committed at this point with Darby and saying, look, this is our story. This is what we're going to do. We're going to try and navigate these waters. We know people are going to be upset about this result with Swerve Strickland, but we're going to, risk this and do the stuff with the Bucks because we think this will be a satisfying, again, I'm thinking along their terms here. We think that we can provide this sort of satisfying alternative for Swerve at All In that fans will be happy about because they'll get their storyline with Hangman. Plus, you get the Bucks that are involved with the story, and we all know the history between Hangman and the Bucks. So I do wonder with Ospreay if that's going to be the same thing. If he ends up being the one that challenges Moxley at All In, because to me, like if this would have been the move to switch it off to Swerve if you wanted to change something up and want to move off of the Death Rider storyline. But this to me screamed like a commitment of we're going to try and see this story through. And we believe that this story will be able to, we know that people are going to be upset, but they may think that the heat is on Moxley being a heel champion and, beating the favorites. And so that when the one guy finally beats it, you're going to get the big reaction at the show, right? So I'm not as 100% about Ospreay winning. I could be wrong. Trust me.
Yes.
I would love for Ospreay to win, but
I let you go on this. You're wrong, and this is kind of Jack Perry now. Okay, this is like, I respect everything that you're saying. I think it's really well thought out. I think it could happen in the future. But Will Ospreay is now your ticket.
Yep.
And Will Ospreay is your absolute baby face number one guy, and they want to put him up against the heel at the biggest show. And Darby Allin is not putting 40,000 people in the seats.
I agree. I just wonder if that's how they think.
Yeah, but they need to sell tickets.
Yep.
And you're the number one wrestler in the world is on all your TV shows and the news outlets and all of those things doing interviews. Yes, he's wrestling Kevin Knight, which I think is a mistake, but he's your guy. And now it's the biggest show. All he talks about is running with the ball and wants the ball. And he's going to be the one to finally get that belt out. He's going to beat Jon Moxley now at All In. I'm telling you that that's going to happen. And I'll be happy about it when it happens. But until then, this is just not the way to do it. You can't just have schmoz after schmoz after schmoz after schmoz, and it's 12:22, and the Young Bucks are back, and I don't have no idea why the Young Bucks are helping Jon Moxley. It's like it makes no sense. Now they might explain it, and that's fine. But how many of these things have we seen that just don't make sense at the time? And it's another pay-per-view where somebody comes back and really for no reason at all, and it's just gonna cost Swerve again or cost this person again. It's just too many things. Too many Jon Moxley main events where there's 18 people running in. I think Hangman's running in every one of them on the match that he hasn't.
Yep.
Like he's been there every time that he wasn't involved in the 4-way himself. So it's just a lot.
I don't disagree with that. The sentiment there about like the run-ins, like, man, I'm thinking Bloodline with a lot of this stuff, like with the run-ins and whatnot, and I don't understand the thought process of the people back there, where this idea where you have to be like the other company. I just don't get it. It's somebody please get it through their thick skulls. I was going to swear there for a moment. Somebody get it through their skulls that WWE isn't everything when it comes to pro wrestling, and they're trying to be an alternative. And now you've got a main event where I'm getting visions of Bloodline, of Solo Sikoa running down, and all the members of the Bloodline in this, right? So
every time the Bloodline had another defense, it was Solo, it was Tama Tonga, it was, Jacob Fatu, like it was just on and on on.
I would joke about with a lot of those Bloodline matches, like, really, when you watch it, you're just waiting for the run-ins to happen. And that's what's happening with the Mox stuff. So I don't understand it with those people back there, why it doesn't resonate through their damn heads on this. And why do they just not understand the audience that they're trying to appease? Because if they don't, then they shouldn't have their jobs, quite frankly. But that's my frustrations with the whole thing.
And same too. So now you have a show that's gone way too long, and this is why I'm going to say it's the worst show ever. To wrap this up, because we've gone long. To wrap this up, this was not a very good show. The matches that were good, I think we can both agree that like Will Ospreay, greatest wrestler in the world, could wrestle a broomstick, wrestled Kevin Knight, great match. Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe, two very, very good wrestlers, zero storyline, good match. 3-way dance for the International Championship, just 3 really talented guys, good match. Other than that, no storyline got over. 4 hours and 22 minutes or 23 minutes or whatever it is. Another schmoz at the end. So many matches in the middle that were like, nope, this isn't good. This isn't good. This isn't good. All your big stars aren't on, like I said, I went over them before, but half of their rosters who are big stars were not on the show. Oh, I forgot the Ops came down again.
That's right.
Like, oh my God. Stop it. Almost every big star that you have weren't on the show. And the ones you did have, okay, we're getting new talent over. Well, this is Dynasty. This is supposed to be something else. So none of this worked for me, because the matches that I liked could have been seen on Dynamite or Collision. And the ones they didn't get any storylines over. None. Zero. So I was quite angry afterwards, Zach.
I understand. I'm
going to rate this. I'm going to rate this a 5.9.
5.9.
Yeah.
That's a very specific one.
Yeah, 5.9.
5.9. Okay.
Because I'm not giving it a 6. I'm not giving it a C-. I'm giving it a D, because, and the only reason it didn't fail is because of 2 or 3 people. That's it.
Fair enough. I'm hovering around a 6 to a 6.5. This is definitely on the lower end of AEW pay-per-views. I'd have to think about it, because the only other pay-per-view that I can think of, I think this is definitely the worst AEW pay-per-view in front of a crowd. I will say that.
Okay. Sometimes I don't count those ones, and I should, but you're right.
I definitely in front of a crowd. This might be the worst one. The other one I was thinking of was the All Out show in 2020 that it didn't have a crowd, but this is definitely on the low end, and it's kind of crazy to say, because for me, I really liked the 3-way match. There were matches I really liked on this, but and I'm not as like, I'm a simple man, as you know, so I'm okay with The story of the match is these two guys are competing in the quarterfinal to move on to the next round. Perfect. That's okay for me. I don't need anything else complicated than that.
I agree, Zach, but I didn't even know one of them was on.
That's also fair. But in terms of the stuff, as you mentioned, with some of the stories that they did try to tell, it's like, I wasn't feeling it.
Every story they tried to get over, it failed. Every one of them. The only matches that got over were matches that didn't have stories.
Yep.
So, hey, there's 3 matches that didn't have stories. They were the best. All the other matches had stories. They sucked. Do you understand, AEW? Do you understand what you're doing? Stop trying to tell the stories like the other storytelling company.
Yep. Really just look at it and like simplify the process here. You know?
Yep.
I don't you got again, this roster, it's insane the talent, how talented this roster is for AEW, that they could just have these guys go out there in a tournament match and have one of the best matches on the card. So they could just easily simplify this. But, you know, there are guys back there that are trying to validate why their job exists when it comes to being a road agent. So you're going to get these stories and you're going to like it. And quite frankly, I don't like it. So this is definitely on the lower end of AEW pay-per-views. I think I'm a little higher on some of it than you are, but still like a 6.5.
Well,
that's probably one of the lower
one.
That's one of the lower AEW pay-per-view ratings I've given.
Usually you're the negative one, so this makes me happy that I'm more negative than you. Yes. That's gonna do it for our AEW Dynasty. When we come back, the next show that we have, I got some what I'm gonna call, Zach, some sage advice.
Ooh,
yeah, get it? Versage.
I got it.
Some sage advice, and I'm gonna drop what I think is a bit of a bomb coming up for the next show.
Wow. I'll get into my little bomb shelter and get ready.
Yeah. I'm going to drop something that I certainly haven't read it. I've started to piece it together and I'm like, you know what? All of this is making sense. Just like I put something else to you of what, so we're going to talk some WWE and WrestleMania. So we're only 2 weeks away from that. So next time I talk to you. So we got a lot to do here, but this has been fun. I'm probably a little bit negative because I want to like this show more. And when they do stuff like this, it makes me mad. But also, Zach, I would take your 6.5 and put you at Ben's house at 12:23 at night, still having to drive home after a 4.5 hour show going, yeah, no, your number would reduce. So that's all I'll say about that. Always love talking to you. And for Zach McGibbon, I'm Lee Versage. Thanks for listening to AEW Dynasty, the post show here on This Is Wrestling.